All right, everybody, welcome back to another live online learning session. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we are back with Maestro Designer looking at smart graphics. But before we get started, I'm just going to go over a couple of quick points with all of you, so hang tight 1 second. So first of all, this webinar is being recorded. Your audio is muted. However, you are able to ask questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen if you're in the call with us. If you are joining us from a streaming platform, if you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn, please feel free to comment and leave questions. I'm going to be looking through those questions throughout the session. So send us your best questions. All of these recorded sessions will be posted to our website. And then if you can hear us, you can go ahead and raise your hand so we know you're out there. Awesome. So today we have Philip with us. You may have seen him in a couple of other sessions with us. So Philip is the head of professional services graphics team. He's an art director and a real-time motion designer and has been working in broadcast since 2010. So we are lucky to have him with us. So without further ado, Philip, it's all yours.
Hey, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all doing great and ready to see some new stuff. So I'll share my screen now. All right. Cool. So first of all, I would like to explain just a little bit on that topic. What exactly do I refer to when I'm saying smart graphics? Basically, what I'm trying to do for the last 10 years in broadcast is saving time, because I would like to make my graphics so they will be as flexible as possible and to cover as many scenarios I can only think of, because I know how it works and I know that in every given second we can face with some last minute changes or directors willing to do this or other sorts of graphics. Therefore, I'm trying always to think through the art of storytelling and to see what kind of tools and what kind of things I can think of and face with before I've been approached with those tasks when we kind of running over the deadline. And through the years, it seems like I have this pattern of several workflows, techniques, I don't know how you can call that. And I would like to share some of them with you here in this webinar. And again, it's kind of on my personal experience, because you will see the technique and you will probably be able to copy it to your world when you're actually working. And it doesn't really relate to rather that will be in sports, if that's just honor graphics or I don't know, election graphics or whatever kind of thing. And again, it's all based on the tools that we have here in Maestro Designer. So I would say the first and the easiest thing that I would do is the common scenario of a lower third graphics, when we have, for example, a lower third that can be either either two-liner, single-liner. So in this case, we have two-liner, and what we can do is a simple thing will be just to either copy it, and I will get rid of the second line. Then I will just group it into one, make it as my LT group, let's say text. So now basically once I switch it to VHL mode, it will either show me one title or two titles. And the other thing is that once I have that, I would like to refer my lines together. So actually I would export only one thing. So instead of me going through the controller and scripting the cases over there, I can just connect something to the same export. Like in this case, I would connect the main line to the main line, and the subline will always be a subline. So in that case, I would not need to distinguish in between two-liner or a single line, and instead of going to two-liner main line and let's say double-liner main line. So I would connect now. I would just, in fact, I'll just refer those. So now like if I change the text on one of them, although it says subline because I connected it differently, but anyhow, you get the idea. So if I change the text over here, it will be changed on both of my liner. That way I can only approach one export, but actually having multiple choices of design. And in this case, it's kind of just the tipping point of the flexibility that you can allow. Obviously, you can add more to that and have different styles and have, for example, when we have a side panel graphics or a boxes graphics, you would usually have some sort of title underneath it. And it depends when you leave or what language you use, but it can be left to right, right to left, centered, and so on. But if, for example, in the design, you will need them to be aligned to left or to right, you can just some sort of create all your design options and have them all inside your child mode, because that will actually save your resources. And whenever something inside under the child mode, it will not be generated by the HDVG, by the render engine. In that case, the machine will not actually use any resources for that. So it will be pretty much, well, it actually will be seamless on the performance side, but you will have all those options of the design. So I think it's pretty cool. And that's kind of how I approach every possible scenario. So whenever I design, if I'll need to design a package for, let's say, an election graphics, or that will be just a branding, something like that, I would just go and think of if there will be a scenario that I will need to replace my text only just by sending new data, or would there be actually a possibility that I would need more change to that? Wouldn't I need to change the font? Then I will just export the font as well, so I can change my style without even opening the scene, or colors, and so on. So I'm trying to export as much thing as possible in this case. So I'll give you another example that that we kind of used recently. So for example, let's imagine so let's say that will be my I can replace that with something, but let's say I have a side panel with social tweets or social, and we have this Twitter over here, and let's say that will be the Twitter in. So I'm playing my animation. Here's my Twitter, and we have an avatar, we have the Twitter, and some text that will say, but here's the thing, once you're starting to pull data from social accounts, or rather that will be, I mean, Instagram will be relatively simple. Well, it used to be simple because now it's tricky. Now it can be different aspect as well. But let's just say we're going for Twitter or Facebook. Now, Twitter can be kind of easier than Facebook to hold, because you still have a limited amount of characters. But let's say I would need to create a scenario that I should be able to show any tweet. Now, I don't know if that tweet will only be, hey, what's up? Or it will be more than 5 lines of text, because there's nothing we can. So what we're doing in those cases, we can bind the information of my background with the actual text size. So for example, I'll say join my webinar tonight because it's really fun, and here is more text. So creative. The end. All right. So as I would have more text, you can see that my background actually is screen now. Like in terms of my animations, it covers the scenario. So you just have it in. So in that case, I can create one graphic that can pretty much address all the possible scenes. And that's exactly what I'm referring to when I'm mentioning the smart graphics or flexible scenes or whatever. So because on the operational side, it will be so much easier for me just to take that data or just to connect it to that stream or feed or whatever that be, and just send it play. So I need my scene to be flexible enough so it can handle actual dynamic informational changes. And so here's the second example. Now, since we are doing social, I can show you more example. For example, it can be also an Instagram feed. I can place the Instagram logo over here, or I can change it so it will be a Facebook. And that's the thing. I mean, we just within like simple animations, I can just change my social, or let's say coloring actually, because I can remove that this social branding and place any other. It can be a newspaper, it can be any other source of information that I'm coming from. But basically what I'm trying to say, once I'm creating this, if that will be just short post. Yep. So, and that way I can just address it, and that's it. We have it on any scenario. So, well, pretty much you can animate it in, and the animation will animate the actual object, and the object will be smart enough to stretch and show itself exactly to the size that it should be on. So, well, that's pretty much my second example. Yeah, so obviously this can be done easily and can be applied to so many cases. Rather, that will be, again, news, sports, whatever you need. So another good way that I can adjust this scenario, what we can do, we can take a text field, and I'll just show you a small example. So if I grab this text over here, and instead of word wrap, I would make it, there's like multiple choices we can go with, and you probably cannot see it, but it says like it's auto, word wrap, and then shrink to fit. Basically, shrink to fit will shrink the text until it will fit in that area. And then we have shrink and wrap, which means that this area is only how big we can set. So I'll actually make it bigger in that case. Just slightly. No, that will not work. I'll just show you a simple example. So let's say we have this text over here, and let's say, hey, That's me. Now this text, the way I would actually work with it is, let's say that's exactly the size that I would like to cover. So what I can do is make a shrink to fit. So in that case, as I type more, it will fit. The only problem with that is it's only for like extreme cases, because I don't like my text to be squished. Like if I select the font and I like this font, I don't want to modify it or like touch it in any way. The other thing is that I'll make shrink and wrap. So that way, if I just have more text, it will actually scale my text back, which is actually a great example, because here let's say, hey, there is more text to come. So you can see that what the Maestro designer does is actually just making that text smaller so it can feed. And this is pretty much a great example for let's say quotes or posts, and can be used in social as well. So we have like several options. So usually what I would do, I would have, if I would treat the social media, I would have enough space for just an image if I would cover only the image. And then I would bind it with some text, and I would make that text, first of all, to be able to push the background if I would need more text. And the other thing, I would probably think about having that text to get to let's say some sort of a border. And when it's way too much text, I would start scale it down. But again, it depends on the design. If you still want people to read that text, you won't shrink it that much. You'd rather to cut it off, etc. So it's up to the design, but there's like so many things you can do with that. So let's see another example for, let's say, quotes. I'll do results, sports, quote. Yeah, let's do this one. So here's an example of another smart, I'll call it smart graphics. So as you can see, the text over here, it says the main idea of this to have an asset that can be, but bottom line, that's like a lot of text. So let's say the main idea is to have, let's read all that and say good look. So the main idea is to have good look. But again, if we need more text, obviously it will shrink and it will adjust to it. But if that's not the case, we can just make it, and the text will grow back to whatever size it is. The other thing is that we can bind the information of that text field with the visibility. And that can also, it can also be used in several ways. For example, I can add another line of text, or maybe another line of text. And if you can see, it actually stretch my boundary, like my bounding box of that text until I reach to a specific point, or whatever I would give it by the design definition. So in that case, I can have more information. So for example, if I have, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, so it will be line number 5, for example. So here's another example of, if I have, this is if I have some data, like if I won't have any data, you would see that you don't have any text. And once we do have some, you can actually see that line. Therefore, I can use this, for example, for, let's say, if we're covering the election right now, and we would like to go and change my graphic to, let's say, here we have a picture of Trump, and that will be here, we'll say Donald J. Trump or whatever. And then we have bullets because we're covering the election, the coming up election in US. So that way what we can do, we can actually take and like show data that we actually want, presidential, once upon a time, and so on. So that gives us an option just to cover, let's say, an election story. But again, same graphic exactly, I can go and cover something else. Now, let's say not using the bullets or something like that. Let's say I'm promoting my show that I have in a few hours, or like coming up next, Game of Thrones or whatever. Bottom line, you just make, let's say here, coming up next, and we get rid of all that text. So eventually you'll try to make that little research and try to think of all possible scenarios and try to cover as much as possible in one, maybe two templates. That way, and again, it's not only the text, and it's not only, for example, this image over here. Now, this image, I won't be able to actually show. Yeah, I can show you here. So you can see here on the left side that my source currently is 16:9. But the thing is that if I would go and select a 1:1, like a Twitter post, it will always know the actual aspect of my image, and it will center crop into it. And again, that happens because we create a function that will, first of all, read the size of my source, and then it will know how to treat it. Instead of me having 3 different templates, that one will be with an image, without an image. And by the way, I can get rid of, get rid of the image as well. And that way I will still have my graphic that I can just move it to the side so it can snap to the center. So in that case, I can use it as a bullet, or 1, let's say, to 6, I think at this point. So I can use it to 1 through 6 bullets. I can use it as a quote. I can use it as a title. I can use it as, obviously, the image can be also a video source or a clip. And so there is like only when one asset, I can already cover so many scenarios during my day-by-day live show, or that will be my news or whatever stream that I will be working with. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, another thing is working with colors. So what I like to do is, let's just say I would like to export my color palette. So in that case, I can just go and, let's say, change any of my textures. So I can kind of change my design in a way, and reskin, and I can also do the same thing and just go and change my styles and my fonts and etc. So in that case, and again, the animation is still gonna be there, and the animation will not affect my style. So it's kind of it's not really that complicated. Once you build it properly, you will see that you can create a flexible scene with an animations and everything working together, regardless of the information that you will have. For example, let me show you another example. Open. Let's go for this sport results. It's a good example. And let me just get a background over here. Just get something nice. Actually, I have a better option. Hold on. Not loose. Nicer. So let's say we have a game, all right? And in this case, it's gonna be a soccer game, football game, depends where you live. And how you call this game. Righty. Now, let's say we're covering, I don't know, the Olympics or whatever. And we have some sort of sport event, and we have a result, full screen result table, which is kind of semi-transparent. You can see still the crowd, see the game, and you have your top players or whatever. Now, in one line you would have, for example, in one line you would have, for example, 10 players, and in the other you will have less, and so on. So as I just told you, what I'm usually doing here, I'm having my data, let's say my name, and if I don't have any name, I would not have that line. So in that case, when I play the animation, if I have anything, it will be there. If I don't have anything, it will not be there. So that makes my life so much easier, because I don't need to create several tables in which I would have 5 lines, 6 lines, 7 lines, etc. So in that case, I will just create one line, and I will combine my visibility of that object to that line. And that way, if I have any data and I have 7 results, then it will show 7 results. If not, how about that? So the operator doesn't really need to worry about it. All he does, he can punch the button of lineup results or event results or whatever that will be. And in this case, it will just show them the result, and your table will be flexible enough to adjust itself. The other thing is, what I love to do is, you remember how I showed you that previous social example when we had the background actually expanding once I have more text. So what I did there, I had my bounding box of my text connected to the Y scale of my background. That way, when I actually have more information, I can push it through. And I think now we have plenty of time. So the last thing I want to show you today is pretty much how to create one of those. And I will just disconnect. I'll just disconnect, let's say, this one. And I would actually set my tafel to default. So, and maybe I'll show it in a schematic view as well. So here's the thing. Let's say we have this, that will be 6th. So let's say so it's James Thorpe, I don't know, something like that. And now what I need to do here is just take my name and combine it with my visibility. That way, if I have anything in my line, it will appear. If not, the whole line will disappear. So here's what I'm going to do now. So I have the player. Sorry, that's the, yeah, that's the name. And over here we have the text string, and I will create an out connection and we'll connect it into my actual line visibility, and I will connect it. Now, first of all, nothing actually happened right now. Why? Because actually we didn't connect it. That's another thing. So again, here we're creating an out connection, going back to my row. Here we create in connection and connect. Okay, so it's disappeared. And the reason why it disappeared is because the connection is right, but the visibility is actually a Boolean. So it's a just on and off toggle. And what it can understand, it's only a 0 or 1. And what I'm saying right now is James something. So if, for example, my value over here instead of James will be 1, it will be obviously visible. And if it will be anything else, it will not be. So only 1 or higher, 3, 4, 5, etc. will actually work in this case. But apparently, it won't be like if I would say, let's say Phil, sorry, I'd say Phil, it actually would not work, but that's not my name. I'm not Phil1 or something like that. So in that case, I would need to convert that value to something else. And for that Boolean to understand that, I would need to convert my value to actually 0 or 1. And what I can do is, instead of giving that 0 or 1 condition, set that 0 or 1 and use it as a condition in cases when either I have text or not, because that eventually that will happen, because I either will have a name of for that line or not. So if I don't have a line, if I don't have any data and the string is empty, sorry, it will be 0, and if not, it should be 1. So in that case, what I can do is hit this visibility value and apply a function for it. Now, what I would use an if condition. So actually, caps. So I'll say if, that will be my, and since what I'm connecting is actually a string, I would say string string, so did I say string? Yeah, sorry, string I. I stands for internal connection. So if string I is, I can say here any text, but I'll just show it, leave it empty, and close the brackets. Then just be 0. Otherwise, excuse me. Otherwise, you should be 1. And you can actually see that my line already jumped back. And what we have here, let me just make it slightly bigger. So you can see just a simple if-else condition that I'm saying that if my string, if my inner connection is actually empty, then it should be invisible. Otherwise, just show the line. So now the thing is that if I have this text over here, and if I say numbers, it will show it. If I have nothing, it will do nothing. And if I have my text, fill, then we do have the line. The other thing is alignment, because if I, let's say, miss that line, if I don't have information for this guy, or let's say I would like to have that line to be flexible, what I usually would do, I would take this background, and you see here, I have this scale. So I would, first of all, make sure that this table will be from the bottom. Over here. And I would make sure, sorry, my bad. I actually needed to start from the top. And what I wanted to do is snap to this last line. So that way, if I have, for example, less line, it will just jump and it will be shorter. And the other thing that I would like to do is actually connect all of my lines together. So that way, when I have one line, it will push the other line. And that way, it will actually expand on my table. And I don't have that much time, but I'll just show you, I'll just connect few and you'll get the idea. And if you have any questions in the future, just send me an email. So again, what I want to control here is the actual Y side, Y position of my last line. So basically what I need is that my line will be connected to the previous line. For that, we don't really connect something to anything else. We just want the previous line to push further the following line. Therefore, I would need to affect my Y position of the line. So here I'll create an in connection and I'll go to my previous line and I will select my bottom bounding box and create out connection and connect. Now you can see that my line actually jumped on it. And that's because my line doesn't really start from my bounding box, is actually in the middle. So I can either move my pivot or I can use, for example, a function to move it slightly forward, because again, I think it will be just easier. And I want to show you another cool trick on the way. So let me just show you that. So what I'm saying here is I, which is my internal connection in this case, minus because we're pushing it obviously down, 0.1, 2, yeah, 3. So 0.3 looks like something that we do, but again, you can do 3, 5, and you can do more. And I'll just keep it that way. Now I'm going to the next line and doing the same thing, in connection on the Y, selecting the previous in line and creating an out connection from my bounding box. Now here's what I want to do. Instead of typing again, I minus 0 to whatever that will be, I would actually go back. Yeah, I would actually take the existing function and just drop over there. That way, it's kind of like a smart object in Illustrator, so it will use the same function. Because if I would need to adjust it in future, instead of going through all those lines, let's say I would like to have more space, so you can space that out just updating one texture. So it's kind of faster and easier. And that way you can, again, affect the design if you need. And I'll just do that again for the next in line. We'll do that will be the in connection for line 3. Sorry, we did 1, 2, so it's 4. So here we're doing in connection and going back to line 3. Here we're doing bottom out connect, snap, same thing, line 3 in, line 2 out, going here bottom out, connect, to adjust the function. That's pretty much it. So now if I want to update, if I want to have more space, I just only need to update one function. So it's kind of makes my life easier again, for like future. That's way too much. Let's say I want to make it 38. And the last line, so that will be in connection into bottom out connect and adjusting the function. That's it. Now we have 35. That's pretty much it. The last thing that I would do, I can just connect a blank. So now if I miss them, you can see that one actually climbs over the other. So if I will have my alignment as well, it will help me not to worry about the lines in between. So that way it can be like a proper bulletproof template that I would not need to worry about. So whoops, that will be the design. And again, if I have no information here, let's say I'll be empty, will still animate and will still show me my design. Yep, that's pretty much the basic idea of how you can make your scenes more flexible. Again, we can use child modes to make your to make a list of styles that you actually want to have. You can use internal connections and combine them with data apply functions, set it with your animations, and make sure that your template will be flexible enough for your thing. And I think that the most common workflow and the most important thing is to do your research and try to understand what exactly would be your will be your scenarios, because most likely if you're in the industry you're already seeing, and we all watch TV, and unfortunately not that many new things or graphics. It's usually pretty much the same. So you can approach it in a challenging, creative way. That way you can just create your graphics so it will cover all the possible scenarios. Or the other way around, you can create something new, and she can let me know if you do that. I would like to see. Again, thank you guys. Thank you for coming. That's pretty much all I want to share right now. And so see you in my future webinars.
Thank you, Philip.
Thanks.
It looks like we don't have any questions. So I'm just going to steal the screen sharing from you and wrap up this session. Let's see. Great. So we have a couple of sessions coming up. So tomorrow we are looking at Media Composer and how to remove a color cast. And then on Tuesday, which is August 25th, we'll be looking at Media Composer again. This time we'll be looking at saving multiple time codes. So if you're interested in either of those sessions, we'd love to have you join. That being said, I think that's everything. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you.
We will see you next time.
Great.